My self-limiting beliefs, I believe, happen after the $1 million, not to get to the $0 to $1 million. And I think for a lot of entrepreneurs, frankly, it's not the $1 million that's the problem, because they're probably used to do things, to accomplish things, to get to $1 million, or I've even sold more than $1 million. In my case, I had sold, a lot of work. So I didn't have a problem to start on my own and to believe that, yes, you know what, I can sell. It's after you get to the $1 million, and it's those limiting beliefs. Specifically for me, like, that I had to do everything, that if I don't do it myself, it won't get done right. I mean, that's a tough spot for a lot of driven entrepreneurs. You've done a lot of things, you've carried all the hats, you've gotten things done. And now all of a sudden, you have to get things done by delegation. And so the idea, the belief that somehow, if you don't touch it, that it won't get done, it won't be done right, you have to let that go. It's after the $1 million that entrepreneurs have to question their beliefs, because those beliefs work for a good period of time. It got them, successful at school, got them successful to get to $1 million, and then to realize, you know what, yeah, I believe this was good, but now this doesn't serve me anymore.
You're listening to the Black to Business Podcast, an educational podcast providing Black entrepreneurs with the tools and resources to start and grow their businesses. We chat with vetted Black entrepreneurs, thought leaders, and business owners as they provide tips and resources to help take your business to the next level. I'm your host, Monique T. Marshall. Welcome to the Black to Business Podcast. I am your host, Monique T. Marshall. If you've been feeling like your business can't grow unless you do everything, you are not alone. Maybe you've hit that point where you're overwhelmed, burnt out, and wondering why your business isn't scaling the way that you know that it could. You've built something super solid, but no matter how hard you work, it feels like the growth has stalled. The truth is, many entrepreneurs hit a wall around that 6 or 7 figure mark, not because they don't have the skills, but because they're still operating with the same mindset that got them started. And that, my friend, can be the bottleneck. In today's episode, we're talking about what it really takes to break through that growth ceiling with none other than Dr. Sammy Orelien. Sammy is a serial entrepreneur, business strategist, and CEO who built his first company from the ground up to over $20 million in revenue. He's been where you are, and now he helps business owners build powerful teams and systems so they can grow beyond being the center of everything. If you're trying to scale your business and feel stuck doing it all, Sammy brings that clarity and strategies you need to hear. So today we're unpacking how to shift from being the doer to becoming a true leader, how to delegate before you feel fully ready, and how to structure your business for sustainable growth. So if you're ready to stop playing small and start scaling with intention, let's get into it. Sammy, welcome to the Black to Business Podcast. Good to have you here and so happy to be able to share you with my audience. So welcome to the show.
Thank you, Monique. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yes, the discussion today is all around you are the bottleneck in scaling your business from 0 to 3 million. But before we get into that, I would love it if you could share your journey, because you have such a powerful story with my audience so that they can get to know you a little bit. And how did you get where you are today?
Sure. Well, thank you, Monique. My journey is that I started out in corporate America, like most, and after 7 years, I realized that I had become a business within a business. That is that I was essentially making a lot of money for my employers. I was expected to go and get business, but also execute. And I was quite successful at it. And some of my colleagues suggested that I should consider going on my own. So I started a company back in 2004 called Symmetrica that I grew from nothing to close to $20 million in revenue. I sold that company in 2018. And then I started a company in biotech called Cytovation that I'm still running. I'm also consulting, providing coaching and consulting to other organizations. This is something that I've just started, and it came because people who know me were reaching out to me and asking me for advice. And so I've been doing more and more of this coaching and management consulting engagement.
I love that. Such a phenomenal story. So you go out on your own and you strike this success from, you said that the first company you sold off and you were able to make 20 million?
Well, I didn't. I sold it. I'll keep the amount, private. But I mean, I grew the company from nothing. I started. I built the company from scratch to $20 million in revenue.
Yes, yes, that's what I mean. Like you grew it
Yes,
on your own, 20 million in revenue.
I grew it on my own to $20 million in revenue. Yes.
Wow. Wow, wow, wow. So, how do you think? Okay, so we're going to get into all of the things because I think that is so phenomenal and encouraging. And one of the things that you speak about, Sammy, is people in business being the bottleneck as the leader. So, can you talk about first, we want to understand what a bottleneck is. And for you, what does it mean when you say you are the bottleneck in your business?
When I say you are the bottleneck in your business, it has to do with the problems that you're seeing, the frustrations that you're seeing in the people around you. So instead of pointing the fingers at the outside, it's essentially looking at where the index, looking at where your thumb is pointing out, is pointing out to you. And so the frustrations that you're seeing with the people around you, maybe some of the problems, whether it's to growing or in terms of servicing clients, that may have to be to do with you. And so it's not something where you have to look at a list of activities to be completed. It may have to be to do. It may have to do with transformation, with something in you about things, about you, your characteristics, your way of being that need to be changed.
So, for you in your journey, what was that moment for you when you realized that you were the bottleneck?
Well, I think for me, I was always, I talk, I wrote a book and I talk about the fact that I'm a control freak. So I'm
Hmm.
not, I'm not ashamed to say it. So I like to control things. And, I think it's true for a lot of business owners or founders, entrepreneurs, is that when you start,
Hmm.
you have been successful. You have a way of being that leads to success. What happens is that what makes you successful up to a point is not the same attribute that will make you successful in the next at the next stage. It's kind
Right.
of like, if you're in an orchestra and you're a great first violinist, right? You're great at it, but then they ask you to lead the orchestra. The skills that made you a great musician, it's not the same skills that will make you a great leader of the orchestra. I hope I answered your question, although it was a bit indirectly.
Yeah, yeah, you definitely did. And I think that that's where a lot of people don't have that realization. And it takes a lot of introspect. So, meeting entrepreneurs, they hit that wall at the $1 million mark. Why do you think that that happens?
Well, it's because as individuals, we have our limitations. That is that, typically it's about 1 million. Some people are able to go further, 1 to 3 million in terms of your own. What happens, Monique, is that in schools or society, they teach us to be good at managing ourselves, at leading ourselves. We learn how to be great by ourselves. The issue is that you really can be great by yourself. And there's no one player that will be ever better than a team. And so, the people who start business, they've been great at something. They've been great on their own. And they have to shift at some point to be great in a team, to make a team great, which is something that nobody taught, nobody teaches you that in school. It's something that you have to learn on your own. And
Hmm.
I would say that a team beats a great individual player every single time.
Yeah, yeah. And Sammy, you talk about your journey and that you were this control freak and you recognize that about yourself. There are oftentimes some signs for entrepreneurs that they may be unknowingly holding themselves back in business. So, can you share some of those signs that you've seen that might be holding entrepreneurs back and they don't even know it?
And sure, I mean, some of the signs is when your staff, they're coming to you to
Mm-hmm.
solve the problems. You're the one who solve the problems. If you're the one in terms of your contribution, that is that the amount of business that you're bringing to the business that is the highest, it doesn't decrease over time, you
Yeah.
are definitely a problem. Because um, you should see problems being solved without you being there. It's the team solving the problems. It's the team bringing new business. maintaining clients, delivery, if you're the ones to be the problem solver all the time or most of the time, and that doesn't decrease, then
Mm-hmm.
you're definitely the bottleneck.
Yeah. And Sammy, for you and your journey, so how did you go? Because some people might be listening. As I mentioned, we have a lot of people who may be in those earlier stage of business, and they might be thinking, because the conversation is around how do you go from 0 to 3 million? So for some people, it's like a lot of people that go is the $1 million mark, as we mentioned. And then from the million, we're like, okay, 3 million. So how do you advise, or how did you go from zero to your first million?
From zero to my first million, I was in the service industry, right? I mean, so I
Mm-hmm.
was in specifically public health. My approach was I looked for a market that wasn't served by the large businesses. And so, specifically for me, I was looking at average size of contracts of 150K. In the company that I was, if you're a program manager, that is that you're one of those units where you have a program where you have to have your own personal funnel, that is your own sales pipeline. 150,000 is a small little thing. They don't want you to put a lot of resources behind it. So I was going after contracts that the larger businesses, it would just be too small. It doesn't fit the biz. And but at the same time, those $150,000 contracts, they're important for the individuals who have them, for the individuals who want the work done. And what I was going, and my approach was to say, these other big companies like my employer, uh, they're great if you have a huge program. If you want to, I used to have an analogy. I say, if you're looking to buy a brand name television, this is them. The brand name television that has a lot of fancy stuff, but they won't put the resources that you need behind a $150,000 contracts. And I would have somebody more junior than me managing your contracts. Now you have me, somebody with the experience managing your contract. It's just that I'm doing it in a company called Symmetrica, and it's not in one of those big boxes companies. So that was my approach, giving that personal touch, giving my personal phone number, and knowing that, you know what, this is a project important for me. This guy would put more skill sets. There's much more power toward execution for my project than I would ever have in a larger company.
Hmm. So you were saying, so if I understand correctly, you were saying that, so you were going after contracts, but you were going after contracts that were at least 150K, or you were going after contracts for companies that could afford more than that, just that 150K.
No, so I was going at contracts from 150 to 300K
Okay.
average. Between that value, that was my sweet spot.
Yes.
Whereas, the previous company, we were going after contracts, multi-million dollar contracts, right, where you would put the effort in terms of tracking it,
Gotcha.
following up with the client. For large business, they have executives that need to be that need to be fed, that need their salaries and their nice cars,
Yeah.
and they have a lot of infrastructure, so they need the larger size contracts. For me, the 150 to 300K was nice enough to kind of create traction, and I didn't have the competition of the large businesses.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha. Okay, so that makes sense. So that's how you went from zero to that first million. And in that journey, a lot of people might experience those self-limiting beliefs, especially when you're in those early stages. So, what's the cost, would you say, Sammy, of ignoring those self-limiting beliefs? And how did you kind of navigate those self-limiting beliefs that you had from striking out on your own?
To be honest, Monique, my self-limiting beliefs, I believe, happen after the $1 million, not to get to the $0 to $1 million.
Mm,
To get started, and I think for a lot of entrepreneurs, frankly, it's not the $1 million that's the problem, because they're probably used to do things, to accomplish things, to get to $1 million, or I've even
mm-hmm.
sold more than $1 million. In my case, I had sold, a lot of work. When I told my boss, and I had a good relationship with my boss, that I'm going to strike on my own, he said, "Well, you're successful because you have the name of the company behind you. You are selling not just yourself, you're selling the company as well."
Yeah.
And I was like, "Yes, you know what? Maybe I won't sell as much, but I'll sell less, but I'm going to keep a bigger share. So it will still be worthwhile for me." So I didn't have a problem to start on my own and to believe that, yes, you know what, I can sell. it's after you get to the $1 million, and it's those limiting beliefs. Specifically for me, like that day I had to do everything. That if I don't do it myself, it won't get done right. I mean that's a tough spot for a lot of driven entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
You've done a lot of things. You've carried all the hats. You've gotten things done, and now all of a sudden you have to get things done by delegation. And so the idea, the belief that somehow if you don't touch it, that it won't get done, it won't be done right. You have to let that go. I think that's the harder beliefs to let go. It's really past. I mean, that's my personal
Yeah.
belief that is after the $1 million that entrepreneurs have to question their beliefs because those beliefs work for a good period of time. It got them, successful in at school, got them successful to get to $1 million, and then to realize, you know what? Yeah, this I believe this was good, but now this doesn't serve me anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. And what role does personal self-development play in this process? And why do you think it's often a missing piece of that business growth?
Well, Monica, it's because you don't know what you don't know, and nobody can be their own mirror, right? And so that's the problem is that you could say, well, I've been successful. That's the way I am, that's just the way I am. The
Yeah.
reality is just the way I am. That's just what you tell yourself. But people can transform. You can create a different you to have different results. I mean, so yes, that's who you are, created the $1 million, but to get to 3, 10, $20 million, you may have to show up differently, and you
Yeah.
can create that. The problem in terms of how do you show up differently is that yes, you cannot be your own mirror, and not everybody can do the introspection, and oftentimes it's having someone else to essentially be there to kind of reflect back to you and say, you know what, this is what I'm seeing, this is what I'm observing, this is what you may not be hearing people are telling you.
Love
Yeah.
that. And so let's talk about that. Let's talk about how do you shift from the operator to CEO and then how you have to think differently, show up differently. So what are some mindset shifts that are required to move from doing everything to leading everything?
You have to essentially shift from being an operator, a contributor, to being an expert in running teams,
Yeah.
which is completely different, And so, remember, so your school, maybe you're the person who aced the SAT, you aced the GRE, the graduate review examination. You may have been a great lawyer, great MBA, and you can read numbers like nobody else, or you can sell like nobody else. But you know what? You can sell like nobody else to a certain point. Now, your value and your growth, the growth of your organization will depend on having other people who can sell like nobody else. So creating other people who are like you, who have the skills that you have, and people that have other skills that, frankly, you never had, and getting them to work together. And in business, it takes people from different skill sets, different mindsets to work well together. The person who wants to go and wants to push, want to sell like nobody else is not the same person as the individual who's going to make sure that your T's are crossed and your I's are dotted, right? That aggressive salesperson will feel that the person in compliance and contract is slowing them down, but you do need them to listen. And so you've become now this person who now gets a team of people who have different skill sets, different personality to work well together and to produce as a team, as opposed to where before it might have been you being a great salesperson or being a great expert selling and getting the company to run.
Yeah. And Sammy, we have a lot of people who are in those earlier stages. So when you talk about the shift for entrepreneurs who are in those beginner stages or earlier stages, how do they begin to step into that CEO even before they feel ready?
So in terms of thinking like a CEO, it's the approach. I think, even when you're starting, it's the realization that you're always greater with having a group of people behind you. And so for me, actually, even though I had limitations, I believe that I had to do a lot of things. But when I started out, it might not be obvious, but I had some people behind me. I had other experts that were with me, that were supporting my business. It seemed like, they were part of my company, but they were just mentors that like me and that lend their credibility to me. I mentioned in a blog that when you start out, give. So look out for large companies that may not have the time to invest in pursuing a particular client, or who wants to add a client to their portfolio that you know well. And so you offer them to do that for them. You offer them your contacts, your network. So when you're starting, my point is that start acting with a larger footprint. Start engaging others to help you, as opposed to you one on one trying to make a sale. Start engaging both large partners, large companies, but also smaller vendors. In the age of the internet now, I would say if you're starting, frankly, you should start with a team, including virtual assistants that people who are going to take some tasks, some menial tasks away from you that, frankly, is not worth your time to do.
And somebody's listening and they're like, okay, how do I do that? How do I get the confidence to start to delegate when those resources might be a little limited?
I can tell you that even now, today, I mean, I for my, I have limitations. I have some work with my companies. I'm doing work for the government, so I can't outsource work, certain projects, certain work overseas. But for my personal brand, I use people overseas
Mm-hmm.
that in some cases I'm paying less than $10 an hour, and it's
Mm-hmm.
legal. It's a lot of money for them in their countries, and these are individuals with a bachelor's degree. They do a great job. Some people ask me, "How do you do so much?" I do so much because it seems like I'm doing a lot, but I have an invisible team behind me, and not just people in
Yeah.
my company, but people overseas in
Yeah.
different countries that I work with, that are maintaining my websites, that are researching information for me. So I use a large team, and I think every entrepreneur should basically go after it. And I can guarantee you that if you're in the US in particular, you have people that you have access to who are much cheaper than you are, and who can do as good of a job as you would.
Certainly. And Sammy, what does leadership actually look like at the 1 million to $3 million stage?
At the $1 million to $3 million stage, you should have a clear value proposition
Mm-hmm.
as to this is what we do, this is what we offer that nobody else can offer, that you can sell to clients, that people can say, you know what, I believe it. You have enough proof that this is true because you've reached $1 million, and that you can go to someone who's at a larger company, who's a winner, that you can say, you know what, you come and work with me, and they can buy into that vision that you've articulated.
Yeah, I love that. And one of the things that I like that you talk about, and just knowing your journey and you sharing your story, is that delegation aspect. But I think that you also mentioned you have a large team. And with that, you've built this machine. So we're talking about systems, the structure, and the team. So, what systems should business owners have in place if they want to scale sustainably?
You should have a system, in terms of business. It's it's kind of easy, and to me, it's you have to have a system to get clients, and some of that system to get clients, even if you're good, you can have people help you with that. You can help people help you build your lead of prospects. That's not something that I think an entrepreneur should be doing themselves.
Yeah.
So you need to have a team to help you build your prospects, to help you broadcast to those prospects. The second thing is that to deliver to clients, no matter how good you are, I believe that some aspect of the work in terms of delivery to clients, you want to remove yourself as quickly as possible from that. So let's say that you are a lawyer and you're leaving, say, your big law firm to start your practice. That means that you have a client. You shouldn't do the work from zero, from A to Z. Maybe there's some research in that you can give to a consultant, to somebody junior. And it doesn't mean that you take on an employee. Maybe you're too small to get an employee, but you can have somebody that on those platforms that you can hire. But you want to to have systems to get clients, to deliver to clients, and to manage cash. And there's three C's. Get clients, deliver to clients, cash is king, manage cash. And so if you have systems for in those three, you will be successful.
And how are you, or what are some of the ways that you advise people to start to document and standardize those operations early on?
The way that I did is that, kind of when I started, is that when I took on employees, I explained to them, this is what I do. I made sure that they replicated what I saw as what was working for me in terms of success.
Mm-hmm.
And, for those things that are key, that are essential to client delivery, you want to make sure that you document it, right? And one of the dangers, though, is that you don't want to SOP everything, right? You have to scale things. You don't want to become too stale. I think that's a challenge for entrepreneurs.
Mm.
You start out. You need to realize, what are key, and you need to, and don't do it. Don't put like a system with standard operating procedures that you may have seen in your corporate job and dump it into your startups.
Yeah.
You have to do that progressively, and that's on art to do it progressively so that you are delivering to clients, you are doing things consistently, and at the same time, you're keeping that entrepreneurial spirit as well.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. That is good advice. I think for especially people who have transitioned from corporate to their own startup, it's so easy to say, okay, I did this at my job. Ask me how I know. So I'm glad that you gave that advice and keeping it fresh.
Yeah. Yes.
And you talk about how delegating in the team, and one of the things you talk about is like for a lot of people, the assistant is the admin assistant. When you think about the first few hires, any other roles come to mind?
So the assistant is important, and I think the other roles, it depends on the company. Really, I mean, you should definitely have an accountant
Mm-hmm.
to keep track in terms of compliance. To make sure that you're tracking expenses, that you're getting the reports that you need, even if you're an accountant. And that is the business. I would think that you would agree with me that it makes sense to
Mm-hmm.
get to get an accountant. I would say, again, cash is king. So having
Yeah.
somebody to manage your cash, and frankly, you may not be able to hire what you call a CFO, which is more strategic, but have somebody who has more who have more experience to oversee that accounting operations to make sure that you have the systems in place, like internal control, right? And it's a small things like making sure that, say, you have a bookkeeper, the bookkeeper is not paying themselves, that you're the ones paying them. So there are little things in terms of compliance that you do want to have that kind of expertise. So I would say for me, an admin assistant, getting an accounting staff, and not just an accountant, but in addition to the accountant, getting somebody who's like a CPA, fractionally, obviously, not on a full-time basis, but to provide consulting to make sure that you're putting the system and you're building the system and you're scaling the system as you go. That's important. The kind of operations that you need for like compliance at $1 million needs to scale up when you get to $3 million, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you want to make sure that you have those systems in place, because that's the thing that a lot of times an entrepreneur, you're not thinking about that, right? At $1 million, you're thinking of getting more money, uh, but,
Yeah.
but you got to have those systems that are important in place to keep you out of trouble.
Certainly. And Sammy, how have building a strong team helped to relieve some of those bottlenecks in your companies as you've gone through this journey?
A lot. It's a having people who are sometimes even stronger, who are great advocates for you, who want the same thing that you want, and you know that they're competent. That's the thing that it gives you that peace of mind, so that it allows you to do other things.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, it's been important to empower individuals that can take things and run with it, and I know they're the experts, and I don't have to worry about what are they doing or trying to micromanage them.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a big thing. And so, with that, what role does boundaries, communications, and setting those clear expectations play into leading a team effectively?
I think it's very important for everybody to know what is their boundary, what is it that they're responsible for, how much authority that they have, and when you expect them to come back to you. I think that's very important, and then for each other as well, for that they accept and knowing that I've delegated this authority to this individual. What they say goes. They're the ones making the decision, and I may provide advice. You may be called to provide advice, just as I am, but they get to make the final decision. I think it's important for communications for everybody to know what is the responsibility of each team member and what is the role that we each play in terms of a decision. Whether it's in what instances are we an advisor, and what are those instances where we are the decision maker. And just because you are the entrepreneur, the founder, owner of the company, doesn't mean, it should not mean that you are the decision maker every time.
That is good advice. I like that. Now I want to talk about the focus of where to spend your time and money and also your energy. So once a business owner, they start to grow, they recognize, okay, I'm no longer the bottleneck. So they've passed the 1 million mark.
Right.
Yeah. So what are we spending the resources on at this point?
And this is a very good question. In when we were talking in a previous question, Monique, I think I said that you have to build systems to attract new clients.
Mm-hmm.
You have to have systems to deliver to clients, right? Client delivery. And I said cash. I did mention the thing that that is at the bottom though, which is the culture, the people, what people call culture. Your people is important. This is the first one. It's the people that will then build the systems to get the client. So when you at $1 million, you're the one building the system, right? You're the one getting new clients. You're playing a key role in delivering or at least supervising the work that's being done. So you're kind of responsible for the work being done at $1 million. Once you go past that $1 million, I think the most important thing is the C that I forgotten is that, it's the culture. You need to look at what's missing in my team. Perhaps the role that you were playing was business development, where you are bringing money, you're bringing the revenue, you're bringing the projects. Maybe that's what you need to replicate for the next one. If you had somebody else bringing the revenue, but you were the ones playing the most important role in client delivery, maybe that's what you need to replace. So the important thing is to look at the team. What is the team that you need at one to create the team, and then start building that team progressively that you need to grow. So it's about team building. It's about now at $1 million, you need to think of what is the team that we need to build and to grow and to live our vision and mission as an organization.
Mm-hmm. That's good. So I want to talk about now the high return areas. So what are some of those high return areas that entrepreneurs should prioritize for the long-term growth?
So I mean, it's for me. It's business development is always a key. You always, as you grow progressively, you should always be adding to your business development or your business development, because if you're doing it right, it's almost like kind of putting your foot to the pedal. You put your foot to the pedal, then you're increasing your speed. So as you're getting momentum, you're investing. So it's not spending, you're investing more into business development, whether it's systems or salespeople. That's certainly an area to grow. But also the way you do it is by getting, at least in my field, in terms of the biotech or technical field, it's also a seller doer. It's also being able to go and hire more A players, right? Because the A players make the difference in the company. That old adage that they say is true. And frankly, if somebody doesn't think that it's true, I would really appreciate that they bring me some data. That 20% of your revenues will come from, 80% of your revenue will come from a small percentage. So it's the 80-20. It doesn't mean that it's 80% of your revenue will come from 20%. Mm-hmm. It may even be less, frankly. It may be 80% of your revenue comes from 10%. So it's starting to identify key players. You need to have more A players. That's really what makes an organization be more successful than others, is the percentage of A players then you can attract. So start building your base, your foundation. Invest in having people who are A players who can hit the home runs.
Mm-hmm.
That's what will make the difference. Obviously, when you're first starting, you're not able to, and the more you're growing, the more you should start looking to attract those A players and bring them to your team.
Yeah, that is good advice. I was just listening to a interview recently, and one of the persons that was being interviewed mentioned that you want to have A players because A players are not going to work for B players. So you have to have that A player on your team and at the top.
Oh, absolutely. And I will tell you, most CEOs know that, and
Hmm.
what CEOs will confess to you is that is getting rid of the C players or B players, especially when they have great values and they made them nice. It's getting, and essentially it's making room for those A players. Yes, you're right, because an A player may not will not come and work for a C player.
Hmm.
So it's and as you go, and maybe you are the C player that got you to a certain point, and you may have to come to make a decision that this C player, this person was helped me to get to that stage. They don't have the skills to get me to the next level. And so if you need to bring an A player, you might have to part ways with the C player who got you to point B, but will not take you to point C.
Hmm. Yeah. I think people who are listening can definitely, it's great to prepare for that because as you grow and especially in those early stages, a lot of people say, oh, I want to keep this person on my team because they started from the bottom with me. And
Right.
what you're saying is sometimes it's they won't take you to the next level. Hmm.
Frankly, if you have a growing company, this is what I found. If you have a growing company, the the likelihood thinking that everybody will be able to grow with the company, especially if it's and I'm talking about if you have a company that's growing and growing at a faster rate than the average.
Yeah.
The idea that everyone who has been with you will continue to grow to take the role, that's a fallacy. That is not possible. It's just in terms of how humans work. So unless you're willing to slow down to have everybody catch up, then you're almost fooling yourself, is what I would say.
Hmm. Yeah. That's solid.
And you have to make that decision. Do I slow down so that everybody catch up? Or do I want to go and then and I'm in the service of the company and then I may have to have a difficult conversation and say, you know what, I
Hmm.
appreciate your help, I appreciate your service. I want to help you continue to do good. I want to help you in your professional advancement. However, I don't think that you can fulfill the role that we have right now.
Hmm. Wow. Yeah. And you know that raises this question about so for you personally, how do you approach decision making now versus in those earlier stages?
Well, let me. I'm going to attempt to answer your question, and please feel free to clarify if I don't get it right. Uh, I think when you're first starting on your own, you have to look at things that's good for you, and you certainly can support. You certainly can get away with someone being a B player. Say you're starting, but at some point, you have to ask yourself what is good for the service of the organization, and remember that you are there to serve the larger organization as a whole. And sometimes something that may be good for you or something that may affect you negatively may be good for the organization. That is that parting with your friends might be not so good for you, but it may be good for the organization. The person who has been your friend was there will help you get it started. It might be in the benefit of the organization to say, "I love you as a friend, and I hope we can continue our friendship. I've searched my heart, but this is what I feel." That I don't think that our professional relationship is serving the organization. Monique, did I answer your question?
Yeah, I think it's all around those decisions are more so aligned with in the beginning. Okay, we're gonna do what works and what I need to do now at this early because I don't know any better at that point. But then as you
Right.
grow, it's like I want the business to grow and you've learned a little bit more. So now you have to make some more different decisions.
And that is correct. And the other thing, Monique, that is a reality in business is that business often needs to pivot, right? They need to change their fate, to change strategy, to change directions. And so you may have somebody that was with you, but you have to change directions because of market demand, of other circumstances. And so in the service of that business, you have to take certain actions that may affect some of your relationships, especially if the relationships was with people that you knew well, were your friends or previous colleagues. Yes, when you start a business, you don't know everything, right? You start with an idea, but you test those ideas against the market. Most businesses at some point have to change or have to alter the direction that they started out
Yeah.
in the first place.
Yep. That's true. And so, for business owners who might be listening and thinking, what's some small, powerful decision that I could make today or just to get me out of that survival mode? So, what would you advise or say to someone who's like, I need something powerful I can do, a decision that I can go from survival mode?
If you're in survival mode, I would say, what is the value that you're providing now that
Mm-hmm.
people cannot get? What is the problem that you're solving that there are clients who absolutely, absolutely need that service? So clarifying that and talking to someone, making sure that you clarify it, I think it's very important. And finding enough of a niche
Mm-hmm.
that need of a group of people, of clients that need to be served, and then you go after it, that you essentially don't have enough capacity for you to handle on your own. And my experience in that in the service industry,
Yeah.
there's usually a niche, a group of people who are not served well by everyone, right? That is that the project size may not be, for example, big enough for people to take for large business to take care of, or people are not giving them enough service. Sometimes there's new technology that needs to be incorporated. There's something that you can take from a different industry that you can bring into your industry. So it's finding that niche. I think is important. So I would say if you're surviving, finding that niche might be the first step to make sure that you understand clearly what is the value that I'm providing to clients who absolutely need it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And Sammy, for you, what are some of the lessons that you've learned from about scaling in a complex industry like biotech that maybe entrepreneurs can apply? So you talk about the niche. So what being able to niche down. So what are some other lessons that you've learned?
By the way, I'm still I'm still learning and growing in that area. With biotech, you know, like I said, there's always a group that has a problem that's not being helped. There's always new challenges coming that the current tools, that is software or scientific approach, that they're not addressing, or if they're addressing it, it's too slow, it's not fast enough, and it's finding, how do we get things better? Things can always be done better, and sometimes the fact that you have legacy systems, a legacy approach to something, mean that the large businesses, they're too slow to take on new approach, right? So like you have AI, so the large businesses may be too slow to incorporate AI. So you might be in a position then to offer new services. So that's kind of what I'm always looking out for, is what are the problems that are not being solved right now, or if they're being solved, that the solution is not efficient, and how can I make the solution more efficient?
Mm-hmm. I love that. Yes, and people don't think I mean, this conversation has truly been enlightening because it's a lot of people think, oh, I might not, when they're going out after certain bids, I might as well not even try because these bigger companies are going to get it. And what you're saying is a lot of times they don't have the capacity or they don't have the time to do these small projects or turn around in a quicker time. And there's a area of opportunity for people who are smaller to go after those opportunities.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. You know, and I have projects. Even with the federal government,
Mm-hmm.
where the government is supposed to bid things, right? And just like large companies are supposed to bid things, and I mean, the government even so, the laws. It's very difficult for them to justify. But I've had many people willing to go back because I've made the case that what, I am going to serve you. I am your solution. I am your unique solution. And so get them to go back to justify a sole source, to say that essentially, you know, this guy who speaks funny, Sammy, and his company, they're the unique solution in this great United States. So yes, you can always find a way to solve a problem by approaching it differently than the large businesses.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because the large businesses, they have system, they have a certain way of doing it. It's the only way of doing it. And it's too difficult for them to turn around and to basically customize an approach for that problem for the client. And you, as a small business, you can go and take different consultants from various places and bring a team to deliver.
Mm-hmm. Great advice. Great advice. And now, Sammy, I want to shift into the work that you're doing because this has been so powerful and enlightening. What's first one thing you want listeners to take away from this conversation today?
The thing that I would say you take away is continue to grow,
Mm-hmm.
because you create what you want. You create your reality. If you're an entrepreneur, you created $1 million company, bravo. You created that reality.
Mm-hmm.
At the same time, I will tell you from somebody who has been in your shoes that the skills that it takes to create that success, it's not the same skills that you need. And so you need to transform to create the new reality that you want, the reality beyond that $1 million. And I would say seek the advice of a coach, or some people that you trust, and listen, and do listen. Because you may think that you have all of the answers, you may think that you know everything, you may think, well, I've been successful so far. And I will tell you that you are not going to be your own mirror. And so you're likely to have an echo effect if you don't have people around you who can tell you the whole truth, who can tell you the good, but also the ugly side.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I agree. And so, what are some of the ways that you are helping entrepreneurs, or just talk more about the work that you're doing? I know you're in a different industry, but just like the work that you're doing, the services that you offer.
Well, the services that I offer is that I help entrepreneurs to create powerful teams, because as an entrepreneur, you're great, and you're probably the one who's either you've aced things, you were a great athlete on the field, you were maybe great in getting A's, maybe you're great in the corporate world in terms of winning new contracts, but you can continue to be winning and to build big by yourself. You've got to build a team around you. You need to start thinking as a CEO of a large organizations. You have to be what you want to create. And so that's how I help other organizations, is really to create teams, because I believe teams are powerful. And a lot of times, when entrepreneurs are thinking of getting talents, so you're getting, that's you get, when you get talents, you're getting a group of people, and a group of people is not a team. You need to have a team to execute and to be effective and to get to where you want to go.
That's solid. And how can people connect with you, or what's your process like for onboarding?
So they can schedule a discovery call with me on my website at ayipreneur.com, AYIPRENUR.com.
Perfect. And also, where can people connect with you online to continue to follow you in your great wisdom?
They're welcome to follow me on LinkedIn as well. I'm very active on LinkedIn, much less so on other social media. So I think the best way to reach me and engage with me is on LinkedIn, or to go to my website, iepreneur.com, and schedule a discovery call.
Perfect. And for those who are in their first year of business, what advice would you give them, Sammy?
my advice is to be clear of the value that you're providing and making sure that you're focusing on those clients that have pain, the clients that have the most pain points, that cannot do without you, without your service. And those clients exist. Those clients that have so much pain points, they can't wait to have a large business serve them or to have other people in the industry serve them, that you can provide a unique service for them. Those are the clients that you focus on.
Yes, I love that advice. And my final question is, what does it mean to you to be Black in business?
To be Black in business for me means that I know I'm held to a higher standard, and I've come to accept the fact that I have to give more. That's what's expected. Those are the rules of the game, and I've accepted to live by those rules.
Beautifully said. Sammy, thank you so much for being on the Black to Business podcast, pouring into the audience, enlightening us, and just thank you for the work that you do.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Okay, that was a powerful conversation and such an inspiring conversation as well. One of the biggest revelations in this conversation is that your business will only grow as much as you do. And Sammy reminded us that scaling isn't just about systems and strategies. It's about shifting how we lead, how we delegate, and how we show up for what we're building. As Black entrepreneurs, especially when we're used to carrying so much on our own, it is truly a good thing to realize that we don't have to do it all. And honestly, we can't if we want to scale sustainably. So here are 3 key takeaways. 1, the skills that got you to the first million won't get you to 3 million. Your role has to evolve. 2, delegation is not a luxury. It is a necessity if you want to grow. And 3, building systems early creates space for you to lead, not just operate. To dive deeper into today's discussion and access any of the resources mentioned, as well as how to connect with Sammy, head over to blacktobusiness.com/252. And if this episode spoke to you, send it to another entrepreneur in your circle who's on the path to growth. I appreciate you so much for tuning in and being a part of the Black to Business family. Your commitment to showing up, your commitment to building something bigger than yourself is what makes this community so powerful. So keep showing up, keep trusting your vision, and keep pushing the culture forward. Later.